What's up everyone, Carmen here, back again with another deck profile, this time for one of my favorite series, Cardcaptor Sakura. When the 25th anniversary set came out in Japanese back in February of this year, I was a bit disappointed as the set didn't end up impressing me much. It definitely had some good cards, but every deck seemed to be missing a key piece or two that they needed. Thankfully, Bushiroad graced us with a single promo card that filled the gap for 8 choice, so I'd like to cover that list today. This specific 50 cards is from a player who goes by the handle Luna out of Toronto, who also won the North American Title Cup versus Cardcaptor Sakura with this list. While some Title Cup lists are filled with a lot of directed hate since they compete against only their own set, Cardcaptor is lucky enough to have all of its anti-tech cards stapled to already powerful profiles, so the list runs just as well in a normal Neo Standard tournament environment without any card changes. As you can see, we run a full 12 stack of events in this deck, so let's break down how Sakura's event engine works before going level by level. Ahead of the events themselves, we have Sakura's best friend, Tomoyo. This salvage brainstorm makes the whole deck tick. She makes all our events colorless while she's on the board, as well as once per turn, allowing us to swap an event into our level after we've played one. This resolves after the event goes to waiting room, so you can even send the first event you play for turn to level if needed. The set has a bunch of experience conditions based on having different named events in our level, so we'll prioritize getting Tomoyo on the board as quickly as possible. The events themselves encompass the cards Sakura collects throughout all the different arcs of the show, starting here with the Clow card. A running theme that you'll see with all these events is that they need at least one Sakura on the board to be played. This isn't a big deal for 8 choice variants of the set, but it's still something you'll need to consider in the early game specifically. As for the Clow card, it's basically a free salvage. So long as you have an event in your level, you'll be able to optionally blind stock after paying 1 to salvage any character. This lets us pay out climaxes for no cost, easily grab back our combos for looping, and keeps our selection high throughout the game. Next up is Secure from the Clear card arc. This is just a torch, but it can also grab events, which means it can potentially grab itself. A 4 count of this alone gives us a lot of deck speed, but as expected for a set focused on events, Sakura has a lot of ways to add and recur this card, allowing us to freely process as many cards as we need for very little actual cost. We also run 2 variants of the Sakura card, the first of which is this Upstart Goblin that lets us simply draw a card when it's played. It also has a level down mode, which can be useful for nasty threats, but since that mode is a minus and your opponent is allowed to encore, we usually just use the cantrip effect to help us dig for climaxes. The other Sakura card is a variant of the Puppet Show card from Key Anniversary, blind stocking a card from the top of our deck, then brainstorming for another blind stock. As we'll get pretty compressed over the course of the game, we can fire this event off late game for much better chances at generating 2 extra stock, letting us eke out finish returns we otherwise wouldn't be able to. It also has the brainstorm keyword, so firing this off at the bottom of a clean deck after an unfortunate trigger or 2, since it's also a counter, lets you keep out a bunch of clean cards for an even better compressed next deck. Wrapping up the event engine is the new promo. For a card that saved the set, it reads pretty simply. It's an event bodder for all 3 different event types, but if we look closer, the card does a lot to bring the deck together. First off, it has a soul trigger, bumping our previously woefully low trigger count. And secondly, this card has Sakura in its name. Having a hand full of events and only a Tomoyo on the board was a pretty bad fail case for Sakura decks in the past. But by prioritizing sculpting this bonder instead of directly taking events, we can ensure we can always fulfill the condition to start our turn by playing an event. There's also the obvious consistency benefit. This bonder turns any card in our hand into an event, which effectively turns the bonder into an Azusa, a free salvage, a draw, or a hand to stock, all in one card, provided all the events are in your waiting room, that is. This insane amount of modularity rocketed the deck's power level, letting us expect to generate a good bit of compression and land an impressive finish return nearly every game. With the event engine out of the way, let's hop back to the rest of the deck. Starting out at 0, we have a 4 stack of this Aqua clone. She triggers on reverse instead of on death, and she has to send herself to bottom deck for cost, but this is still probably the best go first drop for Sakura, since those 2 drawbacks allow her to not only swing out at 2k power, but also add events in addition to characters. Next up, we play 3 of this unique Sakura. She swings for 3k on your turn, and when she hits the waiting room, allows you to pitch a card to perform the cigarettes effect. At very worst, she can always salvage back herself, giving us a decent attacker in the early game that can filter out again later. But with the high count of 1+ cards that we run, the chances are high that she'll let us pick up any of the level 1 combos or bonders that happen to hit our level 0 clock, or any in the waiting room that we threw away during our mulligan. We also play 2 of this Takemichi clone Sakura, allowing us to kill our opponent's go first card outright, denying any on reverse effects. This also lets us clock ourselves for a free stock. We can use that stock in the early game to fill our raiding room with a brainstorm, or more likely, use it to extend our finisher turns when we can't find or access the green Sakura card. The Bonder allows us an easy bridge to this card via the Clow card event, and when combined with our efficient healing finisher, can easily get us a third finisher out on the board when we'd otherwise been stuck with only firing off 2. The event Rize lets us dig into some early events while filtering out heavy cards and filling our waiting room. It also has a stun effect staple to it that can be crippling in some matchups, and with how easy it is for Sakura to recur cards, it'll be even more effective when you can lock those standby targets turn after turn with ease. Rounding out the level 0, we have 1 copy of the Toya CX Swapper, and last but certainly not least, 1 of the Sakura Check 3 Brainstorm. We don't play its associated climax combo, but this card fulfills 2 important duties. 1, it's a card that we don't mind having sit on the board that has Sakura in its name, and 2, it helps us get climaxes so that we can keep on slamming. Don't let that 1 of count fool you. The games where you toss this on the board are dramatically better than those when you don't, but it shines much brighter on your second or third deck rather than your first. With all the deck manipulation and selection the event package affords you, nabbing 1 copy before you hit refresh is fairly consistent provided that you look for it. Getting to level 1, the only card we'll play aside from the Bonder is our level 1 combo. It's a pretty simple card, just a Magro with a bunch of upsides. You can grab events, of course, swings in for 7,500, and gets an extra soul in the center slot for free. You'll want to slam this down with her associated climax every turn, even at level 2. To shore up our loop combo strategy, we have this Karo early play. He plays on a full board at 10-5, and so long as you're doing the event stuff and level that you should be, he either heals normally, or you can go for it all. You can dump your whole clock and take the same number of cards as pings that you can cancel. Because of the kind of deck Sakura is, with a lot of deck manipulation, you have a pretty decent chance to find yourself in a deck state where you have a lot of climaxes in a pretty small deck. Or even better, scenarios where Karo is guaranteed to heal for 2 or more. It's definitely not a super common case, but the ability to get a ton of heals out of an otherwise terrible situation for most decks is more than just a little nice for us. We run 1 Check X since it can play for only 1 stock and gets pretty big, but our main level 3 game plan is to just slam our finisher. Heals on play and cranks out a good bit of damage and decompression for only pay 1 ditch 1, provided you have all 3 different events in your level. Since this burns for a lower amount than finishers like Ichika or Shauna before shuffling back, she can be even deadlier if you catch your opponent in a small deck state, even if they do happen to have a climax or 2 in there. Her efficiency and heals help support the deck's generally good compression going into its endgame turn, with it being fairly likely that you can survive a turn if she fails to kill, then combo again on the swing back by using the event engine to replay her. I know she might read as a bit simple or underwhelming, but remember that the event engine's consistency will let you triple this pretty much every game, sometimes even when you don't think you have enough stock to do so at the beginning of your turn. So think of Sakura a bit more like Maureen than something like Gura. Strength and ease of fielding multiples more than just 1 single card's damage output. Here's the list all laid out one final time, and thank you again to Luna. She actually hooked me up with the PRs I needed to play this list at BCF 2 weeks ago, so thank you again. If you're someone like me who bought this set because they love the property and ended up a bit disappointed, definitely go out and grab 3 or 4 of that promo. It takes a set that really felt like it was lacking and turns it into a real treat to play, and it works on a lot more decks than just this one. That consistency and modularity it affords is just completely insane, especially compared to what it could do before. As always, if you'd like to take the list for a spin yourself, there's always Weissfight, as well as the Auto Simulator. Another on-script one for me this time, don't get too used to them, but I had to do this one clean too, since another list that isn't really mine. More content to come as always. We're probably going to be behind on Ayakashi, unfortunately, but it is coming. My schedule hasn't been great for collaborating lately because I've been very busy, but it's been freeing up soon. So keep an eye out for Ayakashi, as well as more set reviews and deck techs. And with that, Pittsburgh White Schwartz signing off, and we'll see you all in the next one.